losses through communications with Congress, USDA Secretary Perdue, and other federal agencies. The Florida Seasonal Crop COVID-19 Impact Assessment was assembled utilizing phone interviews with growers back on April the 15th. If you'd like more information and to see the numbers that were collected on these seasonal crops, you can go to our website, southeastagnet.com.
Someone has to say it, so we will. The piercing and sucking stops here. There, we not only said it, we're doing it with Safina insecticide from BASF. Safina insecticide is a powerful tool that's in its own class of chemistry. IRAC Group 9D. Safina insecticide quickly stops aphids, whiteflies, and Asian citrusilids from feeding by disrupting their sensory responses, rendering them senseless, aimless, clueless, hopeless, and unable to feed their greedy little piercing and sucking mouth parts. That's good news for growers of citrus, fruiting vegetables, and cucurbits, because it quickly stops their feeding, reducing plant damage and disease transmission. Plus, it's gentle on predatory beneficials and is compatible for use around pollinators, allowing for application freedom. Safina insecticide, chemistry that gets right to the point. Talk to your BASF rep today. BASF, we create chemistry. Always read and follow label directions.
Randall Wiseman, Southeast AgNet.
My fellow conservatives, please stay safe during this COVID-19 crisis. I'm Ryan Chamberlain, candidate for Congress. Here's my plan to protect us from future pandemics. First, stop doing business with communist China. Second, let's replenish our emergency medical stockpile and then pay off the national debt to keep our dollar strong. And finally, let's build the wall. I'm Ryan Chamberlain, and I approve this message. Now let's fire Nancy Pelosi and put America first. Paid for by Ryan Chamberlain for Congress, District 3.
Sunshine in areas of high clouds and warm today with a high of 92 to 94. Tonight, partly to mostly cloudy and very warm, low 75. Cloudy tomorrow with showers and a thunderstorm, high 84 to 92. Saturday, a blend of sun and clouds with showers and a thunderstorm, humid, high 87 to 90. Sunday, clouds and sunshine, high 87 to 93. Florida Weather Center.
WOCA. Ocala.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to AM Ocala Live, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. As we are now 6 minutes past the top of the 8 o'clock hour, it's time for Life South Community Blood Centers. We have Galen on the phone. Good morning, Galen.
Hey, good morning, Adam. How are you today, my man?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. As we're making our way through this week here, some good news on the front of Marion County. In the report yesterday, the Ocala Star-Banner, as they update the numbers at noon, as they did yesterday. We went a full 24 hours without any new cases of COVID-19 or any deaths, which is some good news.
Yeah, and I think whatever that curve was,
right.
I am just amazed at how awful the modeling was, and maybe it's because we are social distancing. But
yeah.
When I walk into a grocery store or any kind of a store where there are people at, there isn't, there's thousands of people in there, it feels like.
Yeah, I know.
But, I just want to move past it. I'm tired of people asking me, what about football? We're gonna have a football season. I think we're going to have a baseball season. I think all these things are going to happen, and I think I really believe, and I've said this from the get-go, we're going to look back at this and say this could be one of the great governmental overreaches in the history of the planet. This will be up there with the New Deal with Roosevelt because of the far-reaching implications that this is going to have.
Yeah.
And they're talking about another stimulus package. I love it how they just freely give my money away to people like it's their own. I tell my kids this all the time. I'm like, it's really easy to spend somebody else's money. If, for example, we're doing takeout now, right? 'Cause can't go out to eat, so my son will go and he'll give him a tip, and I'll look at it and I'm like, oh, that's a nice tip. He goes, okay. It's nice to spend somebody else's money, isn't it? And you didn't earn it. I said, you didn't even question this tip, did you? You just wrote it down. He goes, uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, Dad, it's 18%.
But that's what the federal government does, right?
Yeah.
Exact same thing. And it just, I'm tired of it. Let us go back to work and stay out of our lives.
Do you think then, I was going to get up, bring that up. Are you in agreeing with like maybe having something else come through? I don't know about I don't think I'm in agreement with the idea for the next 6 months, but wouldn't it be beneficial maybe just another stimulus check for folks who've been out of work now?
No, it would be beneficial to allow them to go back to work. Because you got to remember, those people who are out of work are going to be able to get unemployment. And the way they made the unemployment, you can double your paycheck. So, depending on where your income is. No, right. Open up the economy. And if people want to stay home, they can choose to stay home. That's liberty. That is freedom. The freedom to stay at home. Mm-hmm. It is not liberty or freedom to tell people what job is essential and what job is not essential.
Right. I see what you're saying.
It's essential to my family if I was to own a small business, that put food on my table. I don't want the government to put food on my table. I want to put my own food on my table. I want to earn that.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, too, I think what you're mentioning is how there's an expectation, right, for another $600 per week in lieu of the unemployment for what you would get. So that's where you're talking about getting more.
Sure.
I have not heard anybody, though, actually getting any of their unemployment benefits yet. Have you heard anybody actually get? What's that?
Well, it depends on when you file.
Right.
It's usually a month after you file. So,
okay.
And that's kind of the way it works. But, who knows? I think that number's probably going to go over. The unemployment number will come out today, and I think it'll be around the 28 million number. Mm-hmm. So that'll put 28 million people out of work because of this virus. 28 million households' income has been slashed by at least 50% because of this, the reaction to the virus. Suicide rates are way up. Domestic violence is skyrocketing. We have a real problem, and the best solution is to go to work. Mm-hmm. Let people go out and provide for themselves. We've got so many examples of what happens when you have a welfare state. All you have to do is look at the Indian reservations, and you walk out there where people are basically paid not to work. There's no benefit for them working. The educational system is terrible. Their health is terrible. It's because they have no self-worth. I've been to several reservations, and I've talked to a lot of people who've lived on reservations, and they feel that way. So I do not want to be a nanny state. I do not want I do not want to be beholden to anyone for my existence.
Yeah, right.
That's a belief in the American way, and they're taking this opportunity to make government bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm against it.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, we talk about how the conversation has been trying to get guidelines with these phases and then allowing governors to implement things within their own state phase by phase for reopening. Now, Georgia Governor Kemp said, let's do it. Let's open everything up. Let's get it going. However, there was a little backlash from Washington and the administration saying, like, hold on, we don't want to that extent of everything open back up. But that's what you and I were talking about a few days ago, almost to the idea that if Georgia opens up, that makes it a little bit more of a conversation of Florida open back up. And Florida is kind of looking to say, okay, well, where's our numbers at? We were hit hard in certain counties, but other counties not as much, such as Marion County, as spread out as we are. Well, what do you think about the remarks, a little argumentative to what Georgia wants to do and what the governor said?
Well, I talked to a lot of hospitals in all throughout Georgia. The issue is, and the reason they did this is because they didn't want our hospitals overrun. right? That's what we
Right.
were told.
That was the whole. That was the
curve.
whole. Yep.
That's the whole premise of this, right? You have to flatten the curve so our hospitals are not overrun. Throughout the state of Georgia, our hospitals are about 60 to 70% of capacity. Through the Panhandle, it's about 55. Our hospitals are not overrun. They are borderline empty. And the number of COVID patients, there's a major hospital, it's a 700-bed facility in Atlanta, and they have 2 COVID patients. Two. And we're destroying people's lives for those 2 patients. So, and by the way, both of those patients received convalescent plasma from Life South yesterday. So, I get it. People want a vaccine. People want to be safe. You know, every time you leave your house, you're taking a risk. You're more likely to die of a car accident than COVID.
Yeah.
You're more likely to die of almost everything than you are COVID. But, you know, everybody's scared, you know, the fear of this invisible enemy. And I hate that. I can't stand that term.
Yeah.
It's a virus. Call it what it is.
Call it what
right?
it is.
If ISIS is ISIS, then call the virus what it is. It's a virus.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to look back and it's a massive overreach. And so people are trying to find answers from the government. The government sucks at providing answers. They always have. They're terrible at it.
Now, the idea is next week. We were expecting to have with County Commissioner on this Thursday. 2 weeks ago when we had her on, we had Mark Lander from the Department of Health with Marion County, and a big part of the conversation was to see where we're at the end of this week with those numbers. We mentioned Marion County only having 130 cases and nothing within the last 24 hours, and then the new numbers will come out today at noon, and then I'm sure we'll talk projections with County Commission when they're in the studio today. But that idea was then looking ahead to May. Do you see by the end of May everything kind of return back to being open nationwide, or do you still see it kind of carrying into the end of the summer?
I think, and I don't know, I've been wrong about this forever. Because again, my reaction is I just look at it, I just, shake my head when I look at the information, and say, I don't understand any of it. So I'm being told we're going to have elective surgeries May 11th.
Yeah.
And once you have elective surgeries, then you can open up gyms and things like that. I don't know. I don't know what open. I think open means different things.
Right. I was going to say the definition of it's different.
This whole thing about having new spaces in restaurants, great, fantastic. Okay. I don't. That won't last long. Again, we have scientific proof that this virus doesn't like heat. It doesn't like humidity. So there's evidence of that. There's hard scientific data. If you want to look at science, look at that science. So I'm frustrated by it all, and I'm tired of people talking to me about masks. If you're going to have a mask, if I were you, I would test it with something to see just how much of it is actually stopped. All you have to do is take any kind of an aerosol spray. If the aerosol penetrates and goes through the mask, it's useless.
Yeah. We do have a caller on.
True.
Yeah, true.
Let's talk to a caller.
Yeah, you're on the air, WOCA. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Mark. I want to ask you, Galen, when Rick Scott was governor of Florida, his cooperation, Hospital Corporation of America, was fined $1 billion. And he still became governor. But while he was governor, his money was in a blind trust, and his bottom line increased increased by more than $200 million. Now he is in the Senate. My question is he still CEO of Hospital Corporation of America? His money would still be in blind trust. I'd like to know how he is voting on these trillions of dollars, and the first trillions of dollars going into the hospitals and medical facilities and nursing homes and doctors. If his money is still in a blind trust, even though he's not participating, he would still be realizing a tremendous amount of money from these trillions of dollars. And when he leaves the Senate, he believes they're a multi-billionaire. Do you see it that way, or do I have something wrong? It sounds like a conflict of interest to me. I don't know. I'd like to know what your opinion is on that.
Yeah.
I have a pretty strong opinion about Rick Scott, but I'm not going to share it on the air. And I have a pretty strong opinion about HCA, and I'm not going to share that on the air either. I can't.
A big conflict of interest, like he's getting at. Gotcha. And with that, good question. Thank you, caller. Appreciate that. And
it's a phenomenal question. I would encourage everybody to look into. It's go back and just Google Rick Scott Columbia Health.
Yeah.
That's what it was called before then.
Yeah. Interesting, though. And with this segment, we'd like to take time to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center. I'd like to thank Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center, located at 2700 Southwest 34th Street, where they offer skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapy. Any questions, again, on how Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation has been handling COVID-19 and what their expectations are when things would start to change. Any questions on that, give them a call, 352-854-6262. That's 854-6262. And, of course, Penn Flooring. They're a full-service flooring company dedicated to finding the best solution for your flooring needs. Remember, experience in both the commercial and residential fields. Found at 1201 Southwest 17th Street in Ocala. And you can reach them 352-351-3420. That's 351-3420. For thanks out there for Penn Flooring, Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center. Now, Galen, with that, I know you're driving today. We've lost you a little bit there a couple times, but I know you're driving up. Now, the big conversation is if things go back to elective surgeries, then they'll start using more of what you guys have in the blood supply. My one question for today is, has there been good enough donations with not having used much of the supply? Where is the supply at now? Have you guys reached a few days in backup? Has it been pretty good? As people still try to donate, even though that has slowed down? I know there's still people that said that they are, donating blood.
Yeah, our supply is actually very, very stable. We have a great blood supply. We've actually had to go to almost an appointment-based system. So our hospitals in the state of Georgia are going to start elective surgeries April 23rd. We think Alabama will start kind of almost the same time as Florida, so that May 11th time frame. And once that happens, the blood supply will return to more of a normal state. Again, if our hospital's empty, our need for blood dramatically decreases. So I think we're going to see an increase in both. And so if you are someone who you think you had the COVID, and you think you have the antibodies in your plasma, we'd love to hear from you. You can call us at 622-3544 and make an appointment, and we can actually send you some information to see if you're qualify for the testing for the COVID antibodies, and then we hopefully give it to somebody who's really suffering from this virus.
Right. As we know, we had Hugh call in yesterday as we had the conversation a little bit of like more people you talk to. Some people like to start thinking back to January and February, like, you know what, I was feeling ill. Maybe I had something that was relatable and symptom stuff, towards COVID-19. Here's your opportunity to get, that tested, like you said, with the antibodies. And
maybe you have to qualify. It's not open to everybody. We can only test it if you're a blood donor.
Yeah, right.
And there are some requirements. So just call us 622-3544. We are not testing everybody.
Right. And with that said, Barton, I wanted to mention that tonight is the NFL draft. We were talking off air there a little bit that with the way in which they have to do it now, it might actually be a little bit better because you lose a lot of the, what did you say, the pomp and frills that goes into this dog and pony show. It might just be more to the point. Here, boom, there's the pick. Here it is. This next team's on the clock. So do you still think that the Cincinnati Bengals will take Joe Burrow, number one?
Yeah, I don't think. I think they don't. In the Bengals' mind, they don't have a choice.
Right.
Again, their job and all the Browns have ever cared about, or the Brown family and that ownership have cared about, is making money.
Bengals.
And they know the value of the Bengals. Well, don't the Browns own it or something? Anyway, there's a connection there. So, they know the value of what it means to have a number one draft pick from a marketing and ticket sales standpoint. So, they'll do it. They'll take him, and it'll continue to be terrible, just like the entire AFC North. You have to admit, the AFC North, historically, if you took out the Pittsburgh Steelers,
okay, I was going to say,
they're by far and away. Well, yeah, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and not even lately, I guess you could say the Ravens lately, they're a terrible division. They haven't won anything in, 25 years? So the Browns have never won anything.
When you said you take out the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's the difference. You had to take out the Steelers to say that. Now the other surrounding teams.
When's the last time the Steelers won? The Ravens have won a Super Bowl before the Steelers have.
True, because Steelers go back
much better.
Roethlisberger.
All it takes is for a team to leave Cleveland in order to be great. That's all it really takes. When a team ends up in Cleveland, they're terrible. And in Ohio, and Cincinnati's pretty terrible.
Hey, new uniforms for the Browns this year. Going back to our roots.
The Reds. Mark Schott's your owner.
Oh God, the Reds are awful. The Reds are awful. That's disappointing because that's an old baseball club that you would like to have seen
They've been terrible for like 50 years.
Yeah, they're bad. Now
Barry Larkin is not walking through that door.
Now on a note that's close to home in lieu of the NFL draft, a lot of with the top prospects, one of them as far as top 15 is the Florida Gators' C.J. Henderson, the cornerback. What team do you think should draft a cornerback like him, C.J. Henderson? Teams have the availability.
It depends on how early he goes.
Do you think he'll go early?
He's got a chance at going.
Yeah.
I think he'll go 20s.
Okay.
He's just a cornerback, and I don't know if he can be a shutdown cornerback. I'm really interested to see where Freddie Swain goes.
Yeah.
He went to North Marion High School. He's got a chance of being, in the third round. He won't go tonight, but I think he'll go on Saturday or Sunday. I'm really curious to see where he goes because what a great kid.
Yeah.
Kid who just worked his butt off to go to Florida and is had a really good career at Florida. Just a good kid. We'll see. C.J. Henderson. Well, I'm thinking I think Matt Patricia may like him for the Lions because he's got to rebuild that defense.
Right.
We'll see.
With some of the other players within the draft, a couple quarterbacks, obviously the one we mentioned, Joe Burrow, but Tagovailoa, I never say it right, but the Alabama quarterback.
Just say Tua.
Yeah, he's expected to still go top 10, and like I said, from that injury that he had with his hip, I guess overall, I don't know if I really would. They do all the science, so they know regardless. But they've got him as a projected number 7 pick. I was thinking of those two quarterbacks. Okay, but then some of the other things to pay attention to is just how many receivers are actually within the top 20 expected picks, I think is interesting. And do you see, any moves as far as trades for any of these teams to get some of these wide receivers earlier on? Or do you see everything kind of lined up to just kind of go through, like you said, not really any trades or anything to the point of the top 10 picks? Do you see it just going 1 through 10, who's expected to go in a mock draft, just go that way?
Wow, there's a lot of questions. The wide receivers, I think they're so deep that we're just going to trade up for a wide receiver.
Right.
There's no guy out there that makes you go, oh, wow, got to have him.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see a lot of trades.
No.
I just don't. I don't think this class is I think this class is very deep, but it's very wide. So there's a lot of guys that could be first or second round picks, and they're interchangeable. And so you're going to look for a piece that fits your offense or your defense, and I think that's the way it'll go. I don't think you'll see a lot of trades at all.
Gotcha. Well,
You
Galen,
will have some shocks because you always do.
Right.
The Jets will pick somebody that's incredibly stupid, or the Browns.
and ruin their career
draft history
when those
is
kids got
horrific.
potential. Yep. Well, Galen, we appreciate it, buddy. Coming to the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour here, my man. Be safe getting up there. And we look forward to talking to you tomorrow after we see what happens for the first round of the draft. And at the same time, too, round out this week and get ourselves to the weekend.
All right, there you go, my man. All right, Adam, thanks.
You got it, buddy. Later. As we are making our way to the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, stay tuned for the news bits of news you can chew. And then before the top of the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to have Dennis Ball in the studio. Dennis Ball, candidate for president. It'll be interesting. AM Ocala Live, WSCA Ocala.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. House lawmakers voting in person today on nearly half